Right, in this video, I'm just going to quickly run through the basics of getting your files into Lightroom Classic, processing them, and then getting an output, which is typically a JPEG. I've already opened up Lightroom Classic, as you can see. So the first thing I'm going to go to, I'm just going to remind you that the two modules, as they're called, that you're going to need are the library module, and the two are indicated here. You can currently see that I'm in the library module, and the other one that you'll use is the develop module, and you can go back and forth between them. So in the library module, you browse and you manage your files and your folders. When you want to develop a particular file, such as the one that's highlighted here, suppose I want to highlight this much darker one here, the second one. If I click on develop, then that's the one that appears in the develop module. So let me go back to library. One more thing about viewing things in the library. At the minute, I've got a folder open, which is highlighted here. There are 4 files on display. This is known as the grid view. If you want to view a single one, just double click on it. Now I'm still in the library module, as indicated up here. If you don't have this film strip along the bottom, you can enable it by clicking on the arrowhead. You can either hide it, you can hover over it and it will temporarily appear, or you can click on it and it will remain more permanent until you minimize it again. This is my preferred way of viewing. I like to have most of the screen taken up by a single image, and I select them from the bottom strip. I find that a bit easier. But if you want to go back to the grid view, the shortcut is to press the G key on a Windows machine. G for grid. Okay. Now I'm going to import and create a new folder. So to do that, you have to be in the library module. You cannot work on image files unless they're imported. So you should have an import tab down here. We click on that. We get the import dialog box appearing. And what my machine is set up to do is it's immediately found and detected my memory card. Don't worry if you haven't got files loaded up, but this is actually my memory card, which is currently in my card reader. If you look on the top left hand corner, it tells you where you're currently finding the files that you can currently see. You can change the source and find maybe a folder you already have on your machine, and then open it that way, and then you should get images that appear. But in this case, I've got my memory card. If you look along the top again, but now in the middle, I recommend that you use copy. It's probably going to be on copy by default. And if you look on the right hand side, it tells you where they're going to end up. So this is a little sort of flow diagram along the top. So this is your source that you're going to pick from. This is what you're going to do to them. And this is where it's going to be put when it's imported. This will probably be already set up for you. I have all of my Lightroom imports put on my data D drive. If I go down, find my data D drive, which is here, I have a parent folder which is called all my photos, and these are all subfolders. Now I'm going to create a new subfolder, so you need to tick this box where it says into subfolder, and you can put the name of this new subfolder that you're about to create. Let's call this test version 20, just so it stands out. Now, just to check that it's in the correct place, this should actually appear in this list. It's in alphabetical order, and it'll be in italics. And sure enough, it is here, test version 20. And this plus sign means that it's about to be created. Now, that's the name of the folder that they're going to go into. Which files I want to actually import, I usually uncheck them all. Now, I usually go through them all before I import them, and just import the ones I want. So I'm just going to do this very quickly. So I'm just going to choose a couple of images, RAW files to actually import, just those two. So when I've chosen them, I then click on import, and you get a progress bar in the top left hand corner, and they should start to appear. And there we are. Those are the two folders, files I checked, and they've appeared. Now, the only thing I don't like about after the import procedure is the left hand side is full of all these folders that I've already created, and the one that I've just created, which is test version 20, which is actually down here, I think Lightroom should actually have that highlighted, but for some reason it doesn't. I'm just gonna, you don't need to click on it, but I've clicked on it. Now, if I have a look at this bird, this oyster catcher. Now, let's suppose that I wanted to actually develop that. I will then go to the develop module, as it's called, and down the right hand side are all the things you can do with it. They are very similar to Adobe Camera Raw. They really share all of the actual processing engine, and you could start to process it in the same way. So once you've done that, you probably want to create a JPEG. You don't need to save anything. It's already been saved exactly as it is. But suppose I've finished with this, then I will go to File, Export, ... and you get what's called an export dialog window box. And then I can choose from top to bottom where I want to export it to, which is my hard drive. Do I want a particular location for it to be exported? The answer is yes. I've actually got a specific folder. You drop that down, you can actually choose, and you can hunt for the specific folder or check that it's actually been already shown in the folder particular here. So I do actually have my Lightroom final JPEGs, which I created a while ago. I could even put it in a subfolder within that, but I tend to do that afterwards. Next is the file naming. I like to rename it, so you need to check that. You don't type anything in here. This is a drop-down menu. I recommend that you just click custom name. There are quite a few similar ones, but just custom name. And then you have to type in the custom text. So I'm going to call this oyster catcher. And it tells me what it's going to look like when it's actually placed in this folder. And finally, the quality, file settings. The image format that I want to end up with is a JPEG. Color space should be sRGB. And you can either, if you uncheck that, you can either control the quality size and a sort of 100%, but I like to limit the file size to the number of megabytes. For some reason, it's actually in kilobytes, so you have to type it in thousands. So 12,000 kilobytes is 12 megabytes. And last of all is the pixel density of your image, especially if you want to print it. I recommend you put in 240 or 300 here. And that means when you print it, it'll be very high quality. Once you've done that, you can then export it. So I'm going to click on export. Again, you get a little dialog box in the top left-hand corner. And once it's done, now I have it so that Lightroom doesn't show me it in the folder I placed it. I have it so Lightroom does nothing at all. If I minimize this, let's just go and find it. On my desktop here, I have my Lightroom final JPEGs. Click on that, and my oyster catcher bird should appear. And here it is, oyster catcher. If I open that, this is just in the normal Windows, Microsoft Windows photo viewer. This is not in Lightroom, and it's now a JPEG. So if I close that down and go back to Lightroom, and that's it. That's how you import, create a folder, put files in there, process them, and then if you want, export one as a JPEG. As I said, you don't need to save anything. The import procedure is saving it. When you fiddle and process with the files, everything is saved in their current state. You actually, even if you close Lightroom down, when you reopen it, you can usually pick up exactly where you left off. Okay, I'm going to close this down, and that's the end of this video.